Lo siento. Join us on a rigorous step-by-step journey to fluency. I'm Timothy, and this is LearnCraft Spanish. Let's learn the Spanish verb for feeling so that we can say things like, did you feel that? And I feel happy. The infinitive is sentir. So for example, am I going to feel something?
¿Voy a sentir algo?
The participle is exactly what you would expect, sentido. So for example, I haven't felt it in a long time.
No lo he sentido en mucho tiempo.
And then the gerund is slightly irregular. It's sintiendo. So we would expect it to be sentiendo, which is simply sentir, but replacing the R with endo. But for some reason, the E in the stem gets changed to I. So we have sintiendo. For example, is it just me, or are you feeling that?
¿Soy solo yo o estás sintiendo eso?
Notice that in the first half of the sentence, to say, is it just me, we say, soy solo yo. Literally, am I just I? Let's go ahead and get some practice with sentir, sentido, and sintiendo. I haven't felt it yet.
No lo he sentido aún. No lo he sentido aún.
She doesn't want to feel what she is feeling.
No quiere sentir lo que está sintiendo. No quiere sentir lo que está sintiendo.
You had felt that before.
Había sentido eso antes. Había sentido eso antes.
I can't feel what you're feeling.
No puedo sentir lo que estás sintiendo. No puedo sentir lo que estás sintiendo.
Now let's learn the present tense forms of sentir. Most of these forms have a stem change, so instead of siento, we have siento. For example, I don't feel it.
No lo siento.
We also have siente, sientes, and sienten. And then the form for we feel is normal, sentimos. So for example, you all don't feel what we feel.
¿Ustedes no sienten lo que nosotros sentimos?
Incidentally, the phrase lo siento, literally I feel it, is the most common way to say I'm sorry in Spanish. For example, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
Lo siento, no debí hacer eso.
So it's kind of like saying I feel sorrow or I feel remorse, but you literally just say I feel it. Let's go ahead and get some practice with the present tense forms, including the idiom lo siento. We don't feel anything.
No sentimos nada. No sentimos nada.
I don't feel that, but they feel it.
No siento eso, pero ellos lo sienten. No siento eso, pero ellos lo sienten.
I'm sorry, I saw 14, but there were 15.
Lo siento, vi 14, pero había 15. Lo siento, vi 14, pero había 15.
You don't feel what she feels.
No sientes lo que ella siente. No sientes lo que ella siente.
I'm sorry, but she doesn't feel anything.
Lo siento, pero ella no siente nada. Lo siento, pero ella no siente nada.
I want to know what you feel.
Quiero saber lo que sientes. Quiero saber lo que sientes.
Now, before we learn any more forms of sentir, let's start exploring some of the more nuanced ways this verb can be used. Here's an interesting one. See if you can tell what's going on in this sentence. I feel like nothing actually happened.
Siento que en verdad no pasó nada.
So here we used siento que, which means I feel that. And then we stated something that we feel is the case. In English, we typically say, I feel like, but in Spanish, you simply say, I feel that. Try it yourself in this next example. Do you feel like someone is watching us?
¿Sientes que alguien nos está mirando?
So in this case, and in all the sentence examples we've used so far in this episode, we're using sentir along with some kind of direct object. Remember that a que phrase can serve as a direct object. But what if you want to say something like, I feel happy? In this sentence, the word happy isn't technically a direct object. Instead, it's an adjective, not a noun. In cases like this, you'll actually use the pronominal version of sentir. So here's the Spanish.
Me siento feliz.
This literally seems to say, I feel myself happy. But this is how the pronominal verb sentirse is used, to describe how you feel, typically with some sort of adjective. Try it yourself with this next one. We feel sad.
Nos sentimos tristes. Nos sentimos tristes.
So as a general rule, you'll use sentir without a reflexive pronoun when you're using a direct object or to say that you feel like something is the case. But you'll use sentirse to describe how you're feeling, typically with an adjective. Let's get some practice with these various uses of sentir and sentirse. We feel like they feel sad.
Sentimos que ellos se sienten tristes. Sentimos que ellos se sienten tristes.
You feel something, but she doesn't feel the same.
Sientes algo, pero ella no siente lo mismo. Sientes algo, pero ella no siente lo mismo.
She is sleepy, and she is feeling it.
Tiene sueño y lo está sintiendo. Tiene sueño y lo está sintiendo.
They feel like they should be here at 11.
Sienten que deberían estar aquí a las 11. Sienten que deberían estar aquí a las 11.
I feel lonely, but she feels happy.
Me siento sola, pero ella se siente feliz. Me siento sola, pero ella se siente feliz.
I feel like we feel happy.
Siento que nos sentimos felices. Siento que nos sentimos felices.
The subjunctive forms of sentir are pretty simple. Most of them are based on sienta. For example, he doesn't want you to feel lonely.
Él no quiere que te sientas solo.
Let's get a little practice with sienta and sientas. When I feel something, I'll tell you.
Cuando sienta algo, te lo diré. Cuando sienta algo, te lo diré.
I want you to feel happy.
Quiero que te sientas feliz. Quiero que te sientas feliz.
Maybe I feel sad because of the lack of food.
Quizás me sienta triste por la falta de comida. Quizás me sienta triste por la falta de comida.
Maybe she feels like nobody wants to be with her.
Quizás ella sienta que nadie quiere estar con ella. Quizás ella sienta que nadie quiere estar con ella.
As soon as you feel like you have to be here, come here.
Tan pronto como sientas que tienes que estar aquí, ven aquí. Tan pronto como sientas que tienes que estar aquí, ven aquí.
Next, let's learn the preterite forms of sentir. Most of these are regular. For example, I felt is sentí. You felt is sentiste. And we felt is sentimos. Let's go ahead and practice these. I didn't feel anything.
No sentí nada. No sentí nada.
At 12 o'clock, we felt happy.
A las 12 en punto nos sentimos felices. A las 12 en punto nos sentimos felices.
You felt good after going there.
¿Te sentiste bien después de ir ahí? ¿Te sentiste bien después de ir ahí?
We felt peace after that.
Sentimos paz después de eso. Sentimos paz después de eso.
I felt sad when I knew you didn't feel anything.
Me sentí triste cuando supe que no sentiste nada. Me sentí triste cuando supe que no sentiste nada.
The other two preterite forms are a little bit irregular. To say he or she felt, the word is sintió rather than sentió. And the word for they felt is sintieron. Here's an example. They didn't feel what she felt.
No sintieron lo que ella sintió.
Now, why is it that these two particular conjugations are irregular? Well, there's actually a reason, and this is pretty obscure, but some of you may find this interesting. Remember that when we learned the verb morir, something similar happened, where specifically the third person forms turned into murió and murieron. Here's the pattern. For some slightly irregular verbs like these, the stem itself changes only for the forms that don't have a stress on the vowel right after the stem. I know that sounds really technical, but check this out. The stem of morir is mor, and the stem of sentir is sent. For the yo preterite forms, we have mori and senti, where the stress is right after the syllable mor or sent. Mori, senti. That's also true for moriste and sentiste, and for morimos and sentimos. But in the case of murió and sintió, the stress occurs in a diphthong, which somehow makes it easier to kind of blend the vowel of the stem itself, modifying murió into murió and sentió into sintió. So this is because the stress is a little bit further away from the stem. That's also the case for murieron and sintieron. If all of that is too nerdy and obscure for you, don't worry about it. The main point is that for sentir, just like for morir, the third person forms get a slightly irregular change. So we have sintió and sintieron, which, incidentally, is a lot like sintiendo, the gerund. Let's go ahead and practice all the preterite forms. You didn't feel love when they felt happy.
No sentiste amor cuando ellos se sintieron felices. No sentiste amor cuando ellos se sintieron felices.
They felt like they were in need of help.
Sintieron que les hacía falta ayuda. Sintieron que les hacía falta ayuda.
I felt lonely that time, but he felt happy.
Me sentí solo esa vez, pero él se sintió feliz. Me sentí solo esa vez, pero él se sintió feliz.
He felt an opportunity when he saw that.
Sintió una oportunidad cuando vio eso. Sintió una oportunidad cuando vio eso.
The last forms to learn for this verb are the imperfect forms, which are all based on sentía. And actually, the preterite forms of sentir are a little more common than the imperfect forms. So for now, we'll only get a little bit of practice with sentía. See if you can predict the Spanish. She always felt like nobody was there for her.
Sentía que nadie estaba ahí para ella. Sentía que nadie estaba ahí para ella.
I used to feel sad all the time.
Me sentía triste todo el tiempo. Me sentía triste todo el tiempo.
He felt ready for anything.
Se sentía listo para cualquier cosa. Se sentía listo para cualquier cosa.
I used to feel peace when I saw the number 13.
Sentía paz cuando veía el número 13. Sentía paz cuando veía el número 13.
For more practice with any of this, feel free to dig deeper at lcspodcast.com/146. Or if you're ready, let's go on to today's final quiz. In this first example, the idiom love for her is amor por ella, literally love because of her. When he was 15, he felt love for her.
Cuando tenía 15 años, sintió amor por ella. Cuando tenía 15 años, sintió amor por ella.
We don't feel happy when that happens.
No nos sentimos felices cuando eso pasa. No nos sentimos felices cuando eso pasa.
You don't have to feel like this. I want you to feel happy.
No te tienes que sentir así. Quiero que te sientas feliz. No te tienes que sentir así. Quiero que te sientas feliz.
I have felt this 11 times.
He sentido esto 11 veces. He sentido esto 11 veces.
She is feeling crazy because she feels like she has a curse.
Se siente loca porque siente que tiene una maldición. Se siente loca porque siente que tiene una maldición.
I feel like 6 times 2 is 12.
Siento que 6 por 2 son 12. Siento que 6 por 2 son 12.
They don't feel the same thing she used to feel.
No sienten lo mismo que ella sentía. No sienten lo mismo que ella sentía.
I'm sorry. I didn't know she was feeling sad.
Lo siento, no sabía que se sentía mal. Lo siento, no sabía que se sentía mal.
I think you don't feel what I'm feeling.
Creo que no sientes lo que estoy sintiendo. Creo que no sientes lo que estoy sintiendo.
I felt sad and you felt lonely, but now we feel well.
Me sentí triste y tú te sentiste solo, pero ahora nos sentimos bien. Me sentí triste y tú te sentiste solo, pero ahora nos sentimos bien.
They felt something bad, but we didn't feel it.
Sintieron algo malo, pero nosotros no lo sentimos. Sintieron algo malo, pero nosotros no lo sentimos.
I'm sorry. I didn't know you wanted 14. I only have 13.
Lo siento, no sabía que querías 14. Solo tengo 13. Lo siento, no sabía que querías 14. Solo tengo 13.
I don't feel well.
No me siento bien. No me siento bien.
She wants me to have dreams and to feel happy.
Ella quiere que yo tenga sueños y que me sienta feliz. Ella quiere que yo tenga sueños y que me sienta feliz.
I'm sorry, but I can't feel anything. Maybe she feels it.
Lo siento, pero no puedo sentir nada. Quizás ella lo sienta. Lo siento, pero no puedo sentir nada. Quizás ella lo sienta.
For more practice with all of this, go to lcspodcast.com/146. In tomorrow's episode, we'll learn the Spanish verb for sitting. This show is brought to you by LearnCraftSpanish.com. The Spanish voice in this episode was our coach Jimena Lama Rondon. Our music was performed by the Seattle Marimba Quartet, and I'm Timothy, encouraging you to do the hard work of learning Spanish. Acquiring a second language is one of the most fulfilling things you can do, so start your fluency journey today at lcspodcast.com.